When disaster strikes, will you be ready?
Good evening, and we begin tonight with the monster hurricane and its deadly impact already.
When all hope is gone, will the government be there for you? If you're looking for ways to take your prepping to the next level, then you've come to the right place. Broadcasting from a secure and well-prepared location, it's time for Prepping 2.0. And now, please welcome authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher.
Welcome, everyone. This is Shelby Gallagher over here at Prepping 2.0. So excited to have you guys with us this week. But before we get into it, we have a meaty things to talk about today. I want to say hello. And there he is, Glenn Tate.
Well, hello, Shelby Gallagher. Not your real name.
No, Glenn Tate, not your real name either.
I know, but I know your real name.
I don't know yours.
They're on the marriage certificate.
Oh, okay. All right. That's true. Oh, all right. I'll go look that up. Yeah.
Benito Pappendorf.
That's another one of your
aliases.
Yes. Nom de
Alii, which is the plural of the Greek.
Oh my gosh, we're wasting time.
Yep. People don't care about dead languages. They care about our topic, which is friends and family, how to deal with them coming to your place during the collapse. And we've covered this before, but we're covering this because there's new and updated things happening in our world. We have COVID. Mm-hmm. We have riots. Communist insurrection, yes.
And we covered that last couple of episodes. This isn't just people being meanies in the street. This is Marxism at your front door. And then we also have an election coming up.
Which is all of the above going to be rolled into nasty violence.
It's going to just kind of become this trifecta pointed towards November, December, January. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and here's the thing. We recorded a show like this before.
We sure did. January. I looked back.
And we kind of had it in the bank. We're like, oh, would this be a good week? And
did not air.
Never used it. And now it's dated.
Yeah, we can't use it. It's so hilarious, listeners. We have had so many new things happen in the world that something we recorded in January is no longer relevant because it didn't take into account a bunch of the things that Shelby just mentioned. So we wanted to do a retake, if you will, of this topic because it's so important. It's amazing. Now you're going to hear, listeners, a little bit of page rustling, and there's a reason for that. There's a 13-page outline. What? Yes, 13-page outline that we're going to be following on this. And that outline, by the way, Shelby, is available. Yeah, let's rustle. Let's make the rustling noise.
There you go.
Get them used to it. The link to the outline, because I think this outline is going to be a checklist for people and very, very helpful. The outline also has links in it to a bunch of the episodes we mentioned, and there are a couple books we mentioned, and not ours, and other things in here. Highly recommend you go on to patreon.com. You search for Prepping 2.0, it comes up, and you're going to see a post called Episode 91, Friends and Family, Detailed Outline. And it's free. You don't have to be a Patreon to get into this link. And so I highly recommend this outline. I hope you print it out. I hope you use it. And I hope you use it to think about this big topic. You'll see once we get into the show about how this is a big thing that you need to think about for a while. And we wanted to give you the outline so you'd have all the resources you need and kind of a coherent plan for this because we're preppers. We plan.
Right.
That's what we do.
Well, and I also just want to start people out really quick. All things Prepping 2.0.
Yep.
Go to our website prepping2-0.com, including how to get to Patreon.
Yep.
How to get to our Facebook page. How to get to. So if you're ever like, oh my gosh, he said how to get there and I couldn't remember, just go to our website.
Prepping2-0.com. So yes, there you go. Well, an overview of the topic, as you can tell by the name of this episode, the problem to be solved here is the I'll come to your place when SHTF happens thing. Now, that's what we want to talk about. And you can see how this ties into all these current events. A couple months ago, it was less of a probability that people would be wanting to come to your place. And now it's more of a probability with COVID, communist revolution, riots in the streets, and the election. So that's what the problem is. Here's our assumption in this. And this may not apply to you, but it's still going to be doggone good listening. Our assumption is that you are essentially squared away in a pretty squared away place, and people will want to come to your place. And we're also going to assume that the people wanting to come to your place are not preppers. Now, when I say you're moderately squared away, I don't mean $1 million bunker. I mean within the bounds of normal. Like you've got a little bit of food, a little bit of ammo, some guns, some water, that kind of stuff. You know, as usual, with us being very practical like we are, we don't expect people to have the $1 million setup, because we would be talking to a very small audience and they wouldn't need to hear from us because they'd already be set up. So those are our assumptions. And there are two categories of people I think we're going to talk about here. And we're going to kind of bounce back and forth and sprinkle them in. But I wanted to set up at the beginning the fact that there are two categories of people who might be coming to your place. Shelby, what's the first category of people who might be coming to your place?
Okay. You caught me off guard.
Okay,
I got to change my paper here. I'm so sorry.
No, you don't. It's on the first page. Anyway, I'll go ahead and read it while you're catching up here. It's on the first page. There are two kinds of people.
Oh, there they are.
Some people you want to come to your place, and so we're going to talk about how to get them to come. And we don't just mean like how to persuade them to come and that's it. We mean how to get them to come to your place and actually be an asset to you, right? Because, I mean, if their city's on fire, of course they're going to come to your place. That's not hard to persuade people about, but it's getting people you want to come with stuff.
I was going to say, and you've identified them in your mind as someone who's got something to offer to what you're trying to create at your place, like whether it be a skill or an acquisition or stuff. And you recognize the best way to say it is, I'm going to borrow a term from one of our past guests, Sean Swanson. They're a force multiplier for you, and you are for them.
And I would add to that it's not just people who have skills and stuff. It could be grandma, just somebody you really want to have with you.
Someone you really care about,
Yeah.
And you know that they can't handle this all by themselves,
And then the second category, Shelby.
Yes, this is what most people ask us about, is some people that you don't want them to come. You know they're going to come knocking at your door, and how to keep them. You want to find out. We're going to talk about the day how to keep them away. Right,
and when we say keep them away, we don't mean guns and fences and stuff, because you already got that figured out. It's more subtle than that.
We're having a good conversation to convince them otherwise, yes.
And you'll see where we're going with this. Oh, it's so packed of goodness. Normalcy bias. There's another thing. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about your normalcy bias, you the listener, because it's a factor, and your potential guests' normalcy biases, which is the plural of bias, by the way. I want everyone to know that I know that. You don't look impressed. Anyway.
I'm keeping up with the outline here. It's meaty. Goodness.
Okay, so number 3 on the outline, page 1. What do we have there, Shelby?
It's okay to say no to potential guests.
We're going to talk about this in more detail, but it's something I want folks to think about right up front. That's something we're going to cover. You
can say no, absolutely.
You can say no. And we're on a roll. How about number 4, Shelby?
Well, and when you do have guests that come, what they should do and what they need to bring.
Right, exactly. We'll get into that. And then number 5, part of the topic is the Patreon questions and comments about this will be in the after show. Once again, the best doggone thing.
It's going to be an amazing after show.
Oh, the amazing after show.
Our steering committee is in fuego.
Yes, right. That's Spanish for on fire. And we have 23 comments. And I looked at them. A lot of these are Patreons telling us kind of what their situation and their setup is. It's not as much questions like where they want answers. It's really, really diverse set of situations.
That's what we want, because our situation is different than yours. And so when you get kind of this holistic sort of look at it, you get good ideas from that. Awesome.
And there with the 23 scenarios, one of them, listener, is going to apply to you. And Shelby, those are in the after show. How do folks get access to the after show?
They become a Patreon, which is not hard to do. It is, and again, you can go to our website, prepping2-0.com, click on the Patreon logo, and you'll see it's a monthly financial support for as little as $2 a month.
Yep. $2 a month. That's like a candy bar at the airport.
It's like a roll of toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly. And another quick note, there are a lot of links to past episodes. We're going to be talking about past episodes and the books that I mentioned. And those links will be not only in the Patreon post with this outline, they will also be in the show notes for episode 91. And where can folks find the show notes,
I know.
Shelby?
Well, they can find the show notes at prepping2-0.com.
Yep.
And here's the thing: if you're listening along, have our website open, and you can go jump back and maybe tag those particular episodes. So all of our episodes are always, you can go all the way back to episode 1 on our website. It's amazing.
Yep. Okay, so here are a few pre-topic things. We're going to try to spend most of our time on the actual topic. The first one is an amazing listener email. And Shelby, why don't you read this? This is why we do this, folks.
We'd love this. So this gentleman just starts out and he says, "Hello. Thank you for being informative and providing information to fill my prepping gaps. I've been a closet prepper for the longest time. I'm thankful to say that I was able to find sensible preppers with valid information. I happen to have stumbled upon your show from Prepping Academy and Prepper Recon podcast, which I also found by chance one day. I've listened to all prepper podcasts mentioned above from each source. Yes, this is from beginning to end for each podcast. I never knew there was that much time to double down on my prepper information during pandemic, but I'll take it for what it's worth. It's very eerie how most of your podcasts are able to predict future outcomes, and I can honestly say I'm willing to be a patriot more now. So thank you for that, and I know where my spine is at. I will be mentally as well as physically prepared to challenge the values that threaten our America."
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's why we do it, guys.
Yep.
And Shelby, just the other day, this kind of took us by surprise. I happened to look at the number of downloads we've had for the show.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that number was?
It's almost 500,000.
Yeah. 438,000 downloads, you guys. Thank you. Wow.
We talked about it. We're gonna have a little woohoo.
We're gonna have a party when we hit 1 million.
Yep. Or 500,000, I think.
Or 500,000. Yeah, that's a gold record.
We've only been doing this a year and a half.
Yeah. It's getting bigger.
This is getting awesome.
So there you go. Patreon only merchandise. There's merchandise that only Patreons get, and it's a benefit of being a Patreon. Shelby, what are some things that are now available to non-Patreons?
Well, currently, and I'm going to fill in a gap here too, you can get I Miss America. Well, some of this stuff is running out. You have something listed here that's not available just yet. You get a Patriot. Patiently awaiting the collapse merch. Let me just lay this out because I'm looking at what you say in your notes here. All of our Patreons just got their awesome goodie bags, and if they haven't gotten it yet, we actually had to order some more merchandise to fill in some, because there were so many of you that we weren't anticipating when you ordered this stuff 6 months ago. So it's all out. So what we've done is we've made it available to Patreons to now order extras. Like if you want an extra mask, we have I Miss America masks.
They're so awesome. Conversation starters.
Patiently awaiting the collapse mugs. We have patiently awaiting the collapse little power banks for your electronic devices. So all of these are available to our Patreons right now. But once our Patreons kind of get first crack at the extras.
And that's the benefit of being a Patreon.
Yep. We're going to make it public. So if you're listening to this on the radio show or on our podcast, hang in there in about, I'm going to say 10 days or so, 2 weeks.
After this airs, yes.
Mm-hmm. You're going to be able to go to our website at prepping2-0.com and click on shop, and you'll be able to purchase some of these things. So that's kind of the perk, is one, you get a freebie of a selection of these items.
And in your goodie bag, yes.
In your goodie bag. And then you get, I want one of those things and I didn't get it, or I want an extra one. You get first crack at shopping.
Yep. And they run out. These are limited.
Do. These are limited. So, but I will say this. The I Miss America face mask, we're not going to run out of. We're going to keep that going. So hang in there if you're like, I want a mask, which a lot of people have said. Hang in there. Did
they say it in a Muppety Grover voice that?
They did. So hang in there. And again, huge thanks to Iron Unicorn Apparel. They've been great on helping us get some of these cool things going. So, yeah.
A couple more quick things. The goodie bag in July is not the only thing we do. We do thumb drives in December. They actually mail in January with all of the shows from 2020 on a little thumb drive. So if Zuckerberg shuts down the internet or whatever, you'll still be able to have the shows because they'll be on a thumb drive. And I just want to let folks know the scope of the operation when it comes to sending out goodie bags. Guess what our postage, how much we paid in postage so far in the month of July when we got the goodie bags out?
Oh, I don't know, $100.
$2,143 in postage this month, and we love it because we sent out so much stuff to so many people. I wanted to mention another quick thing. This was the topic of a show I did on KHNC. Bibles to hand out. I was stunned. I thought it'd be good to have some Bibles to hand out. Do you know what I ended up paying for Bibles delivered to the house? So this is like a total cost. $1.97 a piece.
That's awesome.
For 100 of them.
Now, were they like a weird version that you can only find in like northern Siberia or something?
No, these were normal. This was both New Testament and Old Testament and
NIVs.
The NIVs, yeah, exactly. And so, just I encourage you guys. I went to, and there's a million places that sell them, and we make no money from this. Bulkbookstore.com. Just look and see what 100 Bibles delivered to your house costs. Get some. Hold on to them, because when people are hurting, and they're going to be hurting in what's coming up, they're going to need that. And you could be harvesting souls for Christ here, and there's no price you can put on that and stuff. Okay, real quick, we're cruising through the pre-topic stuff. Our sponsors: EMP Shield, New Manna, Katie Armor. By the way, I've got some notes from folks that Katie Armor has been very slow in their responses. I've got to call into them. So if you're looking for body armor or lickety split, sorry to say, maybe Katie's not the thing. We take sponsorship seriously, and if somebody's not doing,
Well, let me jump in here on that one too. If I lived in a city, I don't know, a left-leaning, liberal-run city right now, I might be wanting to buy body armor. They might be a little bit backlogged.
Well, that's why they are. They're not like jerks or anything. They're just so, and that's it.
They're behind it because they're swamped, and
they're swamped with orders, and it's not easy to make this stuff.
That's the topic for our conversation today. Yeah,
exactly. And then finally, Backwoods Home Magazine, which is great. Well, to set the stage for this topic, which is family and friends, I wanted to note this: prepping means planning. Now, you need to mentally plan out how you're going to deal with friends and family. You need to do it now, before you're stressed, before a collapse, before you're hungry, before you're sleep deprived, and before you're absolutely scared out of your mind. Those are conditions that don't make for good decision making.
Nope.
You might be too willing to let people come into your place, or you might be, too unwilling to let people into your place. Make a decision now. We're preppers. We plan. And it might take you a while to mentally prepare yourself for this topic. It took me years to come to the position where I said, you and you can come, and the rest of you, I'm going to put a gun in your face if you try to come to my place. I mean, that is really hard to do quickly. So it's going to take you perhaps years to do this mental process. And guess what? You don't have years.
You have a few months.
You have a few months, maybe a few weeks, depending on how things go. So you're going to have to make this a priority. The mental preparation on your friends and family plan needs to be a priority right now. So, and Shelby touched on this, current events that are going on mean that people who never seriously considered bugging out are actively thinking about bugging out now. Hence the reason for this show, because now this is a thing. Think about it, listener. You've probably had this happen to you. People that or whatever have said, and family, friends have said, hey, things are getting kind of crazy. I might need to get out of the suburbs. And you know what I mean? That kind of conversation, you've had this.
Well, and I think we're seeing a low-level version of that right now with COVID. You're seeing this right now where Airbnb is discouraging people from leaving New York and going to Florida.
Yeah.
Well, they're
doing it in droves.
They're doing a low grade version of bugging out. They're just going to go stay in Florida for a couple weeks till this blows over. Yep. And Florida is saying, I know, we're a hot spot now because you did that to us. So I think we're seeing low level versions of that. And we've talked about this in previous shows. Renting a place in Airbnb for a couple of weeks, okay, if you're going to have to go quarantine, whatever, that's fine for certain things, but
it's not a good plan long-term.
It's not a good long-term plan when you're talking about, all right, the apartment we lived in San Francisco has just been burned. Now what do we do?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where do you go back to? So this topic on people's minds, and now we're talking about, it's always been on your mind because you listen to this show. Now it's, when we say on the minds of people, we mean kind of general population people, your friends and family who are not necessarily preppers right now. There are 3 episodes, all of which are in the show notes link, that address this topic of bugging out. We did episode 88, Bugging Out of the City, episode 32, which we called Bugging Out 101, which is a great episode. And then episode 74 was on bug out vehicles. And so everything you need to know about bugging out are in those 3
and those
episodes.
I absolutely encourage it. The Bugging Out 101 is going to seem a little bit dated because you're going to listen to that and go, wow, that's like current events. Yeah. We recorded it like a year ago, but they're good stuff though.
Absolutely. Here's a fundamental point we need to make that affects everything in prepping, and it especially affects this topic, normalacy bias. It is critical to everything. And Shelby, tell folks in a nutshell what normalcy bias is. Well,
it's the whole, you give the example of, you walk into a room and you flip on a light switch and the lights will always come on. To me, the normalcy bias, it's getting eroded on me every day. It's the whole, hey, I can get in a car and I can go see a monument. I can go see a historical location. Nope. Not anymore. I can go out into public and visit my friends. Nope, not with lockdown orders. These are normalcy bias, meaning all of those things that we're used to. Here's a good example. We've talked about this. I had an eye surgery recently. I don't need to wear contact lenses. I felt something in my eye. I'm like, oh, I need to pop out my contact lens. Nope. Normalcy bias. That was it's kind of your brain's muscle memory that this is the way it's always been. It's the way it's always going to be. And it's not true. And it's changing really fast right now. What was normal even a month ago is no longer normal now. And nor will we go back to that normal. Mm-hmm. I will not go back and be able to see certain monuments because they've been destroyed and there's no effort to you know what I mean? So we can't go back to these things and it's changed.
Normalcy bias kills.
Exactly.
And here's how. When your brain is soothing itself and comforting itself, and again, this applies less to preppers and more to the general population. When your brain is soothing itself by saying, hey, everything's going to be all right, because every morning I have a blueberry muffin and a cup of coffee. And then you start to obsess when you're afraid of all the stuff that's going on, and you start to think, if I just had a blueberry muffin and a cup of coffee, I will be teleported back to Normalville where there's none of this bad stuff happening. And seeking out those old things, those normal, soothing, calming things at the expense of the facts that are confronting you, that's how normalcy bias kills.
And let me throw this out. Here's a good example. Like right now, with all the riots going on, I think if you live in Portland, you're like, oh, we've had riots before. They're just going to last for a weekend or two, and then they'll be gone. Nope. They've now, at least right now, where we're sitting right now recording this, we're in the upper 50s for days straight of incredibly violent rioting. Let's go back to the rioting. The whole, they're just going to break some windows and spray paint a few things. Nope, they're going to destroy buildings. That's the point right now. In other words, your normalcy bias, and then it ends up getting ratcheted up. Okay.
Numbing down, we called it in episode 2,
right. This is the numbing down. We're now used to having riots every single day in Portland. It's a way of life. It becomes really psychologically bizarre.
And here's how it affects everything. And I mentioned, by the way, episode 2, which is also in the show notes. We did a great episode on this. Your friends and family who aren't preppers, they have normalcy bias because, well, you'll need to factor in their normalcy bias when you're coming up with a plan on how to deal with them. Your potential guests come fully loaded with normalcy bias, and you have to deal with it. You have to factor that in. Here's how it affects people. People who you want to come often have a normalcy bias against bugging out. Their normalcy bias is the muffin and coffee, and
we're just here for a couple weeks.
Exactly. Now, the people you don't want to have come also have normalcy bias, and they're usually biased towards thinking, hey, it's no big deal to crash at your pad, right? This will be like a 3-day weekend, right? Because, hey, that's soothing to my mind. And once they realize their normalcy bias towards everything being fine has been crushed, then they get totally freaked out by the burning cities.
I'm going to stop you there, Glenn. We have to stop for just a few seconds, and I don't want you to go on to the next point. We have so much more we want to talk about, but let that sink in a little bit. Normalcy bias and numbing down. Folks, don't go away. We have so much more to talk about.
We'll be right back with more of Prepping 2.0 with authors Shelby Gallagher and Glenn Tate right after this.
Shelby Gallagher here. We found that you need to layer your food preps.
Yeah, this is Glenn Tate here. A lot of times the hardest part of layering is the long-term foods. We love Numana foods, which have a 25-year shelf life and are non-GMO. Also, organic meals are available.
Numana comes in family-style portions and in bulk. This is not backpacking food. It's family meals that last for at least 25 years. The perfect freeze-dried part of your food layering.
You can get a sample of Numana meals for $19.95 and see for yourself. You will be amazed.
Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount by entering the code PREP.
Go to Numana.com or click the link on the Prepping 2.0 website.
Give it a try. Numanna.com. That is NUMANNA.com.
When the grid goes down, darkness will descend fast. Used to be there was nothing you could do about an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, or CME, coronal mass ejection. Now you can protect your electronics, protect your family, thanks to EMP Shield. EMP Shield invented a simple-to-install device that prevents whatever's connected to it from frying in an EMP or CME, and it costs just a few $100s. EMP Shield has been tested by independent laboratories and passed muster with the government, which has ordered lots of them. Google EMP Shield and see for yourself. And save some money. Get a $50 discount per device. Go to prepping2-0.com. Click on the Friends and Affiliates page, then click on the EMP Shield logo. At checkout, use coupon code PREPPING 2.0. It's all one word.
PrepperNet, where preppers unite. Looking to meet other like-minded people in your area? Looking to start your own prepper group? Already have a group? Join PrepperNet.com. PrepperNet has gathered the biggest names in the industry to help unite preppers everywhere. Join John Jacob Schmidt, Scott Hunt, Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, Glenn Tate, Shelby Gallagher, Charlie Hogwood, Samuel Culper, Survivor Jane, Rick Austin, Franklin Horton, Ryan Mitchell, and Brian Duff. Our team is united. Check us out at PrepperNet.com. PrepperNet, where preppers unite. PrepperNet.com.
Prepping 2.0 is about that next level of prepping. One of the key 2.0 items to have is bulletproof body armor plates. I used to think body armor was too tactical for a regular guy like me, but it isn't. Give yourself, your family, and your team an unfair advantage when bullets are flying. Body armor used to be expensive and hard to get. Not anymore. KD Armor, and that stands for Come and Take It, makes solid and affordable body armor for normal people. Get body armor while you can. The clowns in Congress are trying to prohibit future sales. KD Armor is the place to get it. CATI armor.com. Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount when you use the coupon code GRANT.
And we're back with more of Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Shelby Gallagher. A lot of meat to go.
Up.
Yep, I had to unceremoniously interrupt Glenn.
It's okay. I love you.
I love you too.
Yeah,
so
nice.
Keep going. You were on a thought there.
Here we go. So, back to normalcy bias. Now, not only do the people who are potentially coming to your place have normalcy bias, and you need to address it, you need to address your own normalcy bias. And by the way, Shelby and I have normalcy bias, and we work on it. So, I mean, it's a thing even for preppers. One of your normalcy biases might be, hey, I can feed 10 people for as long as it takes, because you're thinking, hey, when the family comes for a 3-day weekend, we always have, plenty of steaks and the kids have cereal and stuff. I mean, hey, no. You need to really be cold and calculating and really look at the amount of food you have. So don't just assume you can just take care of all these people for as long as it takes. You also are going to have normalcy bias that your friends and family will be loyal to you and won't pose a threat. That may not be true, and you need to. I just said something crazy. Your friends and family may be a liability for you, and you need to think about it. I mean, they may be fine, but you need to address it and think about it.
Well, and let's play that out a little bit. I think we're very careful. Because we live, if you met us, you'd be like, oh, you're just normal people. You have a job and you have a job and you do, and we live a very normal life. People that know us do not know what we have.
Yep.
And they think they're just living out there and they got their little greenhouse and she grows veggies and all that. They don't know what all we have. We are very careful who we share what we have, because what I don't want is a slip of the tongue. I don't want a friend, a colleague, somebody who came over for a barbecue saying to somebody else and then saying to somebody else, they're set up there. We need to, oh my gosh, you should see what they have, and word gets out.
Yep, exactly.
It can be inadvertent or it can be purposeful. I don't need people. Very few people know what exactly we have, and I think preppers. You know this.
Yep,
that's
dealt with
OPSEC.
it.
Yeah.
That's right. You're a 2.0er listener.
Yes, exactly.
And so you've thought of this. Here's another fundamental point we need to make. We alluded to it earlier. It's okay to say no to people.
Yes.
And we did a whole episode 7, link in the show notes, called Non-Preppers Who Think They're Coming to Your Place When SHTF. And it's hard for us to say, because we're good people, right? I don't just mean me and Shelby. I mean you, the listener. We're decent. We're charitable. Many of us are Christians. We like to be good to people. So it's hard to say no, but you know what? Saying no is a necessity. And the reasons why, it's in some cases, by the way, this depends. And this isn't for, every single person. The reason why saying no is a necessity, all the reasons you're ever going to need are contained in episode 7, and we're going to leave that to you. A couple quick things. You don't have as much food as you think you do, and guests can become security risks, previously mentioned. Now, there's a flip side to all this about, saying no to people. You need to say yes to some people because there are people with skills and resources, and they're an asset. And a great episode on that topic is episode 67, where we had Bear Independent come on, and he talked about tribe and mutual assistance groups. So we're not saying shun everybody. We're saying be selective. This is why we said at the very beginning, you need to have a plan. You need to plan this out and be thinking about this now, because there's a lot to this. It's not hard to do. It's not insurmountable, but there is a lot of thought that goes into this really important decision.
Another aspect to this, and we just experienced this recently, there are those people that you want to have come be part of your tribe.
Yep.
This is the tricky one. You ready? We just had this happen. A member of our tribe has a spouse who is a reluctant.
Yep.
So he's already got his plan. We know he's coming here, and he's going to drag her here. But one nice thing in all of this, COVID has opened her eyes, and she has realized the need for prepping. And he's like, awesome. And we've actually.
And she's nice, and we would love to have her.
She is nice. She just needs to gently come alongside. So they were here at our place recently. Yeah. Honestly, we showed her the goods.
Yep.
And she didn't freak out or anything. She didn't call us weird or anything. But we want her to see that when she comes here, she will be taken care of. So there's that different aspect too. The current situation, I think, is turned very reluctant people into lukewarm preppers.
At least open-minded.
More open, and what I think we achieved it. She was able to see she's taken care of.
Yep. And she'll be a great addition.
Yep,
looking
absolutely.
forward to it. Moral issues. Here's another big topic. And this gets back to the thing, it's okay to say no. You got to think about this in your own mind now, and you have to think about it quickly. People that might be coming and who are not preppers, they had every chance to prep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And COVID even gave them another chance.
Yeah. I mean, that's especially true now because of current events. If watching the news isn't a reason to prep, they're never going to prep. And that easy point to make, and there's a flip side to that. And you're going to hear me say that a lot. There's a lot of other sides to this coin. There are people who never prepped who have become awakened now and want to start. And we have a game plan for that later in the show about how somebody very new to prepping who wants to come to your place and you want them to come to your place can really easily show up with a year's worth of stuff that fits in their pocket. What? That sounds crazy. You'll see where we're going with that. And I'm going to tease the heck out of that to make people listen because I'm evil that way.
Well, and I've had a few people reach out to me. And I will also say I've had young people like 20-somethings and 15, 17-year-olds reaching out to me going, I'm listening to your shows. Yeah. So this is good for them. So if you're some of those fans in that resources are hard for you, this is how you do it. Good.
And that's a really good point I never thought of. And this often happens when we do shows. We come up, we go, oh, geez, we thought of this. This show is not only for the people who are squared away, who are having people coming to them. This show is also for people who might be going places and want to know how to make that work the best. And you just described that. And
I'm shocked that I've had teenagers going, all right, I don't know what to do. They see what's going on and their families don't. These are kids. These are underage. They're under the
tutelage
of their parents. And they're like, oh my gosh, you know what? Listen in. Your resources are more limited, but you can do this. You got it.
Yeah, here's an example of the people who, just think they're going to come to your place. There's a character in the book named Brian, who's a former friend of mine.
We talked about him, too.
We talked about him in episode 7. And so one weekend, I was at the cabin, and I was prepping. I was hauling food out there. I was building things. I was inventorying stuff. I was working really, really hard. And I looked on his Facebook stuff that Sunday night, found out he had enjoyed a lot of wine tasting and watching football and spending a lot of time with his wife while I was doing all this other stuff. And so, I talked to him and he said, and he did this nervous laughter thing. He goes, so when stuff falls apart, I'm going to come to your place. And I said, no, you're not. And he said, what? And this thing, it was fresh in my mind that while I was working hard, spending money, and becoming socially ostracized by my first wife, that I was making some sacrifices. And his plan, like in mock quotes, was just to come and live off of Glenn's stuff, right?
And to mooch off of yours, yeah. To mooch.
So, and I said to him, and I tell this story because it, I think, is a great illustration of what I think a lot of people need to do for people like this Brian guy. I said to him, I pointed to him, and I looked at him in the eye. Apparently, I scare people when I do that, and I don't do it often. I said, remember this day. I said, it is June 2012, and that's when the conversation took place. And I said, you have every opportunity to prep for yourself. And instead of drinking wine, watching football, and hanging out with your wife, you could be doing what I'm doing. And I said, I'm going to tell you what. And I pointed at him again, and I said, when you come to me and say that you want to come over to the cabin and just have everything provided for you, I'm going to say, remember the day in June 2012 when we had this very difficult conversation? That's what you need to do, guys. You need to stop it now with this idea that other people have that they can just come to your place. So there you go. Another thing when it comes to the moral case, for all of this, the moral issues, there is a Christian case for prepping, and we're not going to go through it all because it would take 2 hours. Oh, that's right. We already did. That's when we had Forrest Garvin on the show, and he talked about his book, The Christian Case for Preparedness. It's in the show notes. He lays out all the scripture and all of the stories in the Bible in which people were given warnings to prepare, and they either did prepare and things went well, or they didn't prepare and things went poorly. It is absolute, in our opinions, we're not theologians, we think there is an absolute Christian reason. It's Christian to prepare, and it is Christian to not give away all your stuff to other people. And, kind of leave it at that because that's too big of a topic. There's a flip side. Remember, Shelby, I said all kinds of flip sides. You need to be charitable at the same time. How do I reconcile these two things about, stick guns in people in your friends' faces and tell them not to come by? Oh yeah, and be charitable. I don't know. It's up for you.
I think it's a case-by-case basis.
Exactly.
When you've given someone a warning, well, and it also makes me think about our previous episode with John Jacob Schmidt and Lady Liberty, how to forgive your enemies, and just I think God will, especially if we're seeking the Lord and what he wants for us, he will give us the judgment that we need in that moment. Mm-hmm. I'm happy to hand somebody something and say, this will get you through, you need to move on. I'm happy to give a little bit to get them through, but coming and staying here is a whole different ball of wax.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be charitable, but don't get yourself killed doing it, right?
Perfect.
And you got to be smart. You got to plan. Listen to the guidance in this episode, but more importantly, because we're human beings and fallible, pray. Let the Lord and the Bible guide you on this topic, and don't let your emotions or normalcy bias guide you, because they're going to let you down. I think of the example when you get on an airplane, back when people used to fly, 6 months ago, and the oxygen mask, they give you the little thing, the little tutorial safety thing, and they say oxygen mask will fall down if we lose pressure. And then they say, if you're with a child, you, the adult, put on the oxygen mask first and make sure you have oxygen, and then put it on the child. And the reason is you're not going to help that kid if you have passed out from asphyxiation. And the same principle applies to prepping. Mm-hmm. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And that isn't just practical advice. Here's the biblical / philosophical / political part of that. Remember that you need to live through this to rebuild the country. God wants a better post-collapse America, and he needs you to be alive to rebuild it. There's a darn good reason for you to make sure you make it through before you start thinking about other people, because we got a country to rebuild, and that ain't easy, and you got to be alive to do it.
Yep, absolutely.
So our next topic is what potential guests should do, and this would be basically preconditions for people coming to your place. Again, this can apply to people you want to come, and we'll get into that, sort of a buy-in, making sure that they're serious about it. And it can also be conditions you set out to people who maybe you don't want to have come, but you want to test them. And maybe it would be great if they came, but they need to change their ways. People, potential guests I'll call them, need to buy into your program. Here's the deal. You as the household that people are coming to, you're in charge. Is that a mean, bossy kind of thing? Is that a power trip? Not at all. These are wartime conditions. Someone needs to be in charge. You know what normalcy bias is? Normalcy bias is 6 months ago, everybody could be cool, hang out, and everybody was nice. When people are fleeing someplace and they're coming to your place because their life depends on it, it's a different set of circumstances. You have to have them buy into your program because it is your program. And if they don't buy into your program and they decide that they're going to go off in the middle of a collapse, watch football, drink wine, and hang out with their wife instead of pull guard duty and maybe go gardening and weed and those sorts of things, it's going to be a disaster. So they have to buy into your program. I suggest that you specifically require people to verbally acknowledge that things have changed. I mean, they basically have to disavow their normalcy bias. And it's not like a loyalty oath or anything.
Yeah, this isn't a vacation.
They gotta say it out loud. I mean this. And what we're talking about, Shelby and I are suggesting some kind of tough medicine here, and it's going to seem harsh, but I dare say that people read Shelby's books, A Great State, particularly book 2 of that series, and see all the examples of the stuff, all the way it plays out, all the characters and the storylines. They're all in there for a reason. And the reason they're in there is to give you examples of why you need to have these conversations, how these conversations turn out, and in the case of some of your characters, why it was important.
Oh, sorry, our pup is here. And
Dog.
I'm going to try and calm her down.
There must be a deer outside.
No, there's not. Okay. Joel is outside washing cars and moving them around. So anyway, okay. So
there we go.
My goodness.
Okay, so here's the thing, like what potential guests should do. And this is an idea I came up with a few hours ago, and it's either going to be a really good one or a bad one. I think it's a really good one. Bear Independent, who's a previous guest on our show and a great guy, has the Prepper Classroom Study Guide Notebook. The link to this is in the show notes, and you can find that on prepping2-0.com. We don't make any money from this. Bear Independent's a cool guy. I haven't even talked to him, by the way, and told him I'm going to be sending people to his site. This notebook he has, it pairs with his YouTube videos he has on each topic in the notebook. And it's a great overview of what people need to do to prep. Now, are we trying to get these new people these potential guests to become preppers? No, that's not the point of this. I thought that this guide notebook was a great way to show people who might be coming to your place what all is involved, not for them to do, but to show them what you've done. They need to know all the stuff you've done. And here's another reason for you to insist that your potential guests get this notebook. It's a test of their commitment. If they can't order a $45 book, they're useless. Think about this. You want to talk about a really easy way to show commitment to this gigantic project. You're saving their lives, for goodness sakes. If they can't do this, I got to tell you, I don't really see a future for them at your place. Yes.
And let me tell you, if they don't see what is happening in our world in the headlines with the riots, with the this, with the that, and they don't see that something is happening,
then what can you do?
What can you do? So, but I will go back to what you just said in my books. This, to me, is one of the things you hear me say all the time in our show, and that's this sort of thing too. If it's in a friendly tone and not just you testing to see if they can get their act together. This is the negotiation. Yep. This is if you're going to come here, here's the parameters. Can you live up to them? I can. Or they can't. I can. And then you start, if I bring this and you bring that and you do this and I do that and we put this together, this is the force multiplying that can happen, which I think is the good news to all of this. But yeah.
Exactly. And I mentioned they need to appreciate what you've done. Mm-hmm. Things that are given to people without any cost to them are never appreciated, right? I mean, a couple years ago, Joel, who's 15, had ear pods for his iPhone, and we just bought them for him, and he lost them a lot. Now that he's working his own job and he's spending his own money,
and had to replace them himself,
guess what? They're not getting lost anymore.
They're in pristine condition.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
So, but you can see just having people order a $45 book that gives them an overview of what you've done and what all needs to be done, it solves a lot of problems simultaneously. Now, there's a flip side. You knew I was going to say that to all of this. When it comes to having people buy in, you can't do any "I told you so"s. Please stay away from that.
That is not productive in these times.
It's not productive. Nope. It is really, really tempting in some cases. It's a hard balance you need to strike between forcing potential guests to appreciate you, but not saying "I told you so." So there you go, and that's for you to figure out how to apply to what you're doing. Another important point to all of this, when it comes to what guests should do, what you should be telling potential guests that they have to do, it has to be simple to do it. When you're trying to persuade somebody to do something, you have to make whatever it is you want them to do as simple as possible for them to get started. If I said, hey, there's this book, it's really short, it's only 30 pages, and it's going to be magnificent and change your life, would you read it? And most people would say, well, yeah, sure, I'd be interested in that. And you go, hey, here's the thing, it's in Mongolian. So you're going to have to learn the Mongolian language because it just doesn't translate as well from native Mongolian into English. So you need to learn Mongolian.
Yeah,
I'd be like, you're kidding, right? Are you on drugs? So
some people would apply that same example to getting your ham license. Not the same.
Learning Mongolian and getting your ham license.
Ham license is way easier than learning Mongolian. Anyway.
Yeah, so don't make these preconditions hard to do. And of course, as we said, don't make your potential guests do all the stuff they need to do to be full-on preppers. A couple reasons. They're not going to do it, and they don't think they need to because they're relying on you. And you know what? If you're okay with that, it's actually true. They are relying on you. You don't need to duplicate this. Not everybody needs to be walking around with a table in their head of how many ounces of bleach it takes to disinfect water. One person needs to do this, so consider this, but you need to be explicit about this. You can say, hey, potential guest, you can get away with not doing all the stuff that I've done to prepare here, but you must buy into my program. You see, it's a trade. You need to be very explicit about this. You can get away without doing all the stuff I've done, but you need to buy into my program. And Shelby mentioned negotiations with the family from a great state. I wish we could summarize it and you could know it, but you got to read the book. Buy it if you want. Go to a library. We're not trying to make money here. We're trying to get a message out. It's a big topic that is best described in her books. Now, I don't think you should try to make your potential guests bring everything they'll need because I think it's impossible. You would need a semi-truck to bring everything that's needed. Plus, you'd need a lot of money to fill up the semi-truck.
Well, and your friend would need a semi-truck to bug out.
Yeah, and that's hard to do.
That is hard to do.
That's hard to do, especially on all the bike paths in all the goofy cities that a lot of people live in. So you should persuade them to bring as much as they can. Just don't expect them to bring a year's worth of a food supply in a Subaru, or maybe they can. How might people do such a thing? How can they bring...
They could bring...
a year's worth of supplies in their pocket. Gee, that would fit in a Subaru.
Absolutely super easy. This is something that's should be part of your preps, and you can do that and with gold and silver.
Yep.
With barterable items. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Glenn?
Here's the specific plan I have when it comes to this, and that is, for people who don't have any preps to come to your place with enough stuff to be able to sustain themselves for a year or so. And I haven't done the math, so it's not a precise figure. How about something that's really small, really compact, available, and it doesn't spoil, it doesn't require refrigeration, and it's not illegal like, showing up with a bunch of shoulder-launched rocket launchers or something like that. Gold and silver. A pocket full of gold could be, or a medium-sized bag of silver, enough to provide for themselves via barter for a year. That's how you can tell people, you can come to my place, you need to bring gold and silver. If you don't have all this other stuff. You know what? And they can't claim they don't have room in the Subaru for a pocket.
That goes in your pocket.
Full of gold. And so it takes away all of their excuses. We did episode 33 of Why Preppers Need Gold and Silver. And we did episode 78 about how to buy gold and silver. So go back and look at that. We have favorites. Patriot Trading Group, by far our favorite gold and silver purveyor. They don't pay us. We don't make any money on it. They're super good guys. And that is a place to go. It's in the show notes, allamericangold.com, but just look for Patriot Trading Group. They specialize in this stuff. You could also, if you don't want to go to Patriot Trading Group, that's cool. You could go to a local coin shop, I guess, if you have one in your area. I think you're going to have real problems with that now. And the reason is that mom and pop local coin store, and we love mom and pop stores, doesn't have the buying ability. Patriot Trading Group, literally, I mean, they get on the phone at midnight Pacific time, and it's like morning time in Switzerland, and they're placing orders with people they have 30-year relationships with to get gold and silver. So they have it, and a lot of folks don't. If somebody says, hey, I don't have money for gold, this is now your potential guess, tell them to sell some stuff they don't need. There's another buy-in. There's another commitment. You know what I mean? And that's a mental buy-in. So here's somewhat of a final thought, and then Shelby can wrap this up because we're getting out of time.
Oh, my goodness.
The beauty in my mind of a reasonable precondition like getting Bare Independence book or buying some gold or silver is if they don't do it, you have a rock-solid reason to tell them they can't come to your place. It's fair. Yeah. You laid it out, and it has to be a reasonable condition like that. What do you think, Shelby? We covered a lot of ground here.
We did, and I have one final thought in regards to precious metals, and we've joked about it because we've looked at the price of ammo lately. Whew.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to invest in, some bricks of ammo, I mean, that's a
precious metal.
Brings that to the table too. That's a small thing that you can bring, but that's just in addition to all of that, but. Lots to think about right now, and especially as things continue to unroll. And also, I don't see anyone flipping a switch and saying, all right, phew, we're now back to November 2019. All is well. Mm-hmm. No, we're on a degrading trajectory that I don't know how it's going to undo itself.
It'll get worse before it gets better, and it'll be a rebuilding. And that's just where we're at.
So our final thoughts, we like to leave it with you every week. It comes from one of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin. Folks, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Take a moment and go grab these notes and let it be your primer for getting prepared. Have a great week, everyone.
You've been listening to Prepping 2.0 with authors Shelby Gallagher and Glenn Tate. All of the fun and easy prepping information heard on this podcast can be found online at prepping2-0.com. You can also find out more about Glenn's books online at 299days.com and about Shelby's books online at agreatstate.com. Until next time, be smart, be safe, and be prepared.